Looking at our world from a theological perspective, this is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, July the 20th, 2021. It is currently 1:12 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the sanctuary of Victory Baptist Church, located right here in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening live using the Spreaker app, hit the little chat icon. Feel free to participate, ask questions. You can add your perspective. I always appreciate it. And if you are not listening live, always feel free to email me anytime you want, 24/7, newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. I will do my very best to respond. If I don't respond directly in email, many times I'll take your question or whatever your perspective is and then come back here, turn on the microphone, and do a program trying to answer your question or in regards to your perspective. Also, if you're listening to us on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment. I do my very best to try to respond to comments there. I do sometimes try to figure out if someone's wanting to actually have a conversation or if they're just doing a little drive-by commenting where they just kind of drive by, throw out their, shoot off their comment and then just keep going, and they don't really want dialogue. So I'm always trying to figure out which comments to respond to or not to respond to. But if you do comment, thank you very much. I do read them. I will read. I read everything, all emails and all comments posted on YouTube or anywhere else if I have access to the comments. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in. But we're going to start off with a very important question, a question that may make you a little bit uncomfortable and possibly, well, at least according to one publication, you may be very uncomfortable with the answer. All right. So we're going to ask a question. I want you to be very open and honest with yourself. And then we're going to do a little test to determine if your answer is correct. All right. Are you ready? All right. Now listen very closely. All right. I know you may be driving your car. You may be listening while you're driving. You may be busy cleaning your house. You're at work. But whatever you're doing right now, stop what you're doing because you really need to consider this question. Are you ready? Here we go. Are you a racist? Now, don't get defensive. I really want you to consider, are you a racist? Are you a racist? It's a very important question, and it's a question that a lot of people in our society is asking. Are you racist? Do you hold to any form of racism? Are you racist to specific people of different backgrounds? Do you hold to any form of racism in your life? Now, your first answer may be no, absolutely not. I'm not a racist. I do not hold to any form of racism. I reject it. I'm against it. Okay, well, that sounds good. But you know what? I think we really need to get to the truth, right? Anyone can deny being a racist, right? Anyone can deny holding to any form of racism. It's very easy to say, I'm not a racist. I do not hold to any beliefs in racism. I reject racism. I reject all forms of it, and I am not a racist. It's very easy to simply say you're not something. So we need a test. We need a test to find out for sure if you are a racist. Are you ready? All right, here is the test. All right, listen carefully. All right, here is the test. Do you believe the following things? Are you ready? Do you believe this? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Do you believe that verse? Do you believe it is real? Do you believe it's literal? Do you believe it's history that God created the heaven and the earth? Do you believe this? And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. All right? And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Do you believe that God created the heaven and the earth? Do you believe that God created a man and a woman in his image. Do you believe the name of that man was Adam and the name of that woman was Eve? Do you believe he created them? Do you believe he created everything in 6 literal 24-hour days? If you say yes pretty much to any of those, well, I'm sorry to tell you, you're a racist. I know that may come as a shock. I know you may try to deny it, but science is telling us now that you are a racist because you believe Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2 is history and that it's literal and that God created everything and he created Adam and Eve. Now, I know you may be saying, well, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to listen to the rest of this. I'm just going to move on. I got other things to do. I understand you may be tempted to just go ahead and turn this off and say, who really cares? But if you do believe in Genesis, if your church believes in Genesis, I would challenge you to stop what you're doing and pay close attention because this could have some serious ramifications. I'm not saying that it will. I'm saying that it can. All right. Now, this is how this all started. I got in my car to drive here to the church. I had a stack of stuff, as I always have, to get to, talk about, discuss, do some live broadcasting about. I grabbed my phone. I opened up a podcast app. I hit play, and I started hearing this discussion about creationism being racist. And I'm like, wait, what is going on? So immediately when I pulled up in the church parking lot, I ran into the building. I turned on the air conditioning because it's like 9,227 million degrees here. Okay, that's a little bit of an exaggeration. It's hot here in West Texas. And I grabbed my iPad. I'm like, okay, let me make sure that this is accurate. And I found this. scientificamerican.com. Now, here's what you can do. You can the article that I'm holding in my hand right now, it was published on July the 5th. All right, 2021. So it was published this month. I know I'm a little behind, but I did not see this, did not hear anything about it till today. So now it's getting a little bit of attention. How much of attention it will get, I don't know, but you need to know about this. All right. So if you go to theologycentral.net, theologycentral.net, go to the blog section right now. You're going to get a quote from the article and a link to the actual article so that you can check primary sources. All right, I want you to check this source. I want you to look at it. I want you to look at it for yourself. And by all means, please tell me what you think. All right, here it is. This is from scientificamerican.com, scientificamerican.com. It's in a section that they have listed as evolution, opinion. So this is an op-ed piece. This is an opinion piece. All right, but even though it's an opinion piece, it's a part of Scientific American. All right, now. So you would hope that maybe they could have had someone with maybe some theological background, some theological training. Maybe they could have had them peer review this and go, wait a minute, I think you're not really being accurate here, but you can draw your own conclusion if they're accurate based off your church experience. But here's the headline. You ready? Denial of evolution. So if you deny evolution, denial of evolution is a form of white supremacy. So according to Scientific American, if I deny evolution, it's a form of white supremacy. So I become a white supremacist now simply because I deny the theory of evolution. I believe it's a theory and I don't believe it's true. Now I am a white supremacist. Do you see what this could lead to? All right. So this is what it reads. Underneath that, denial of evolution is a form of white supremacy. Underneath that, we read these words. As museums reopen, let's introduce ourselves and our children to the original Black ancestors of all human beings. All right. Then, I'm going to read, let's see here. There's a lot here we could read, but I want you to just hear this paragraph right here. I want to unmask. So the author of this article, and do we have the name of the author? Allison Hopper, Hopper. Allison Hopper is the author of this article, and she writes this, and I'm assuming it's a she. I know she may not identify as a she. The name seems to indicate that she's a she, and I understand that that's even problematic in 2021. But okay, we're not here to discuss that. Here we go. The author, whomever they may be, however they identify themselves, whatever pronoun they choose for themselves, the author writes the following, and I quote, "I want to unmask the lie that evolution denial is about religion and recognize that at its core, it's a form of white supremacy that basically promotes segregation and violence against black bodies." Perpetuates. That's the word I was looking for. All right, so let's read this again. I apologize. I apologize because I'm trying to read this, but my mind is still trying to process this. Okay, if you would have been with me in the car, you would all understand why I'm stumbling over my words, because I was like, wait, what is going on here? I would 100% argue with anyone who tried to call me a racist. I would argue and fight. I am not a racist. I hate racism. I hate it with every ounce of my being. And as I'm driving a car, I'm being told that I'm a racist because I believe in Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2. It doesn't matter what else I believe about anything else. I've become a racist simply because I don't believe in evolution. I'm still trying to process that. So I'm trying to process that while I'm trying to read about it. So I apologize. Let's try this again, all right? The author writes, again, however they identify themselves, whatever pronoun they use. I'm not interested in any of that. I am interested in their perspective here. According to them, this individual, they want to unmask the lie that evolution denial is about religion and recognize that at its core, it's a form of white supremacy and that it perpetuates segregation and violence against black bodies. So if I deny evolution, then not only am I a white supremacist, I perpetuate the idea of segregation, and I promote violence against black bodies. Under the guise of religious freedom, the legalistic wing of creationists loudly insists that their point of view deserves equal time in the classroom. Now, they've got religious freedom in quotations. So this is almost an arguing, look, Christianity, now just think of the logical ramifications of this if we were to take it to its logical conclusion. What it is saying is that every church and every Christian that rejects evolution and believes in the Bible and teaches the Bible, we are teaching white supremacy. You could argue then the next step would be, therefore we are teaching hate speech, and therefore we should not have religious freedom because under the guise of religious freedom, we are promoting violence and segregation. I mean, that is some serious claims. I mean, every Christian should stop and go, wait. Okay, now, how is this happening? How did we get to this point? They go on to say, science education in the U.S. is constantly on the defensive against anti-evolution activists who want biblical stories to be taught as fact. In fact, the first wave of legal fights against evolution was supported by the Klan in the 1920s. Ever since then, entrenched racism and the ban on teaching evolution in the schools have gone hand in hand. In his piece, What We Get Wrong About the Evolution Debate, Adam Shapiro argues that the history of American controversies over evolution has long been entangled with the history of American educational racism. At the heart of white evangelical creationism is the mythology of an unbroken white lineage that stretches all the way back to a light-skinned Adam and Eve. Now, I have been in a lot of churches that I think have had a lot of issues and issues that I was definitely against. But I don't think I ever heard a church describe Adam and Eve as being light-skinned. I don't think I ever had any discussion on what color of skin they had. Were they dark? Were they light? Were they pink? Were they red? Were they yellow? Were they green? I don't think we ever had any. Now, maybe in your church you were. And if so, I'm sorry that you got caught up in some kind of who knows what you were caught up in. But so right there, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've heard lots of sermons. I have listened to, and I think this would be a fair estimation, probably at least 1,000 sermons in my lifetime on Genesis, Adam and Eve. Now, this is what they go in literal interpretations of the Christian Bible. So if you have a literal interpretation of the Christian Bible, according to Scientific American, this is what you believe. All right, here we go. In literal interpretations of the Christian Bible, white skin was created in God's image. Dark skin has a different, more problematic origin. So according to this, in churches that teach a literal interpretation, we teach, and they don't even say some. I mean, this is written as very dogmatic. In literal interpretations of the Christian Bible, white skin was created in God's image. Now, I have been in churches, every church I've ever been into believes in a literal interpretation of the Bible, and I've never heard them say white skin was created in the image of God, dark skin wasn't. I have never been taught that. According to them, as the biblical story goes, the curse or mark of Cain for killing his brother was a darkening of his descendant's skin. Now, I don't think the Bible tells us exactly what the mark was, does it? So if a preacher told you what the mark was, they're guessing, they're speculating. Historically, many congregations in the U.S. pointed to the story of Cain as evidence that black skin was created as a punishment. The fantasy of a continuous line of white descendants segregates white heritage from black bodies. In the real world, the mythology translates itself into lethal effects on people who are black. Fundamentalist interpretations of the Bible are part of the fake news epidemic that feeds the racial divide in our country. So let's go through this again. So if I deny evolution and I believe in a literal interpretation of the Bible, before this is all over, let me go through this. I am a white supremacist. I basically am promoting segregation and violence against black bodies, and I'm a part of fake news. And what's implied from that would be then obviously we, under the guise of religious freedom, I'm basically promoting hate speech and racism. And it's almost being implied that I should lose my religious freedom and we should not be viewed as like a church. We should be viewed as a hate group. This has serious, serious implications. I want you to read the entire article for yourself. I really do. There's more here I could read. It's not a super long. It's not a super long article. This person, the person who wrote this for Scientific American, because I'm curious about how much scientific expertise they have. Allison Harper is a filmmaker and a designer with a master's degree in educational design from New York University. So I don't know where her advanced degrees in science comes from. It doesn't appear, maybe, I don't see that she has any degrees in science, but hey, that doesn't really matter. She's writing for Scientific American, telling us all that if we don't go with evolution, no, it's not that we're just not scientific. We're white supremacist, racist, and we're promoting segregation and we're promoting violence against black people. I mean, this is insane. This is really, really, really crazy. There's no, I thought I was going to see if there was any comments under this, but you really need to do this. I would say a couple of things. If you want to see, because I just find it funny. It's like, okay, basically Christianity and the Bible is responsible for all racism. But there are, I think if you go back in history, there would be plenty of people. I mean, let's just pick up, if you want to do so, find all of the books in the Tarzan series. All right. I've demonstrated this to my church. I've brought the Tarzan books in. I've read all of the Tarzan books. Many of the stories are very good and very entertaining and very fun, but you're going to find some things very problematic in some of the stories. The way it refers to black people. The books by the books in the Tarzan series almost basically goes with this idea that blacks are not as fully evolved as whites. They're basically closer related to the apes. So wouldn't Darwinian evolution also, like if you're going to blame Christianity, let's say that there have been those who use the story, of Cain, to prove segregation, slavery, and mistreatment of black people. Let's say that has occurred because, look, the church is made up of sinful people. People have done all kinds of sinful things with the Bible. So I'm not going to say it's never occurred. It's definitely probably occurred in some places. All right, definitely. All right, but at the same time, if we're going to blame that, do we have to look at possibly what were some of the negative implications that arose from Darwinian evolution about and how it dealt with how different races, where they were in the evolutionary timeline, like how far, okay, whites are more advanced than blacks. Do we have to at least consider that? If we ignore that, then are we not being fair? I mean, don't we have to be fair about this subject? Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to play a little bit of what I heard while I was driving in the car, because they were as bothered and as shocked by it as me. They were a little bit more professional in how they read the article. I'm still just like, wait a minute, because this to me is very personal, because they are accusing me of something that I despise and hate. I hate racism. I hate it. I loathe it. I despise it. I won't tolerate it in any way, shape, or form. No way. I won't tolerate it in any way, shape, or form inside my church. Now, I know people who've gone to churches and they've experienced some very negative things because of racism. And I've heard stories, and I'm always shocked and disgusted by it and will condemn it at every turn. But now, none of that matters. I'm a racist simply because I believe in creationism, I reject evolution, and I believe in a literal, grammatical, historical interpretation of Scripture, because nothing else makes any sense. But according to this, just think if this catches on. Forget calling the Bible a source of hate speech because of what it teaches about sexuality. This would make an argument that the Bible is hate speech because of what it teaches, according to this, that it teaches white supremacy and racism. This would be used to silence churches. This would be able to be used to get your church removed from YouTube or Facebook. They're racist. They're white supremacy. They're promoting white supremacy. You've got to delete them. Now, I'm not saying this is going to catch on in 5.2 seconds, but it's something that we need to watch. But Skywatch TV, I don't agree with all of their doctrine and theology, but remember, I subscribe to I can't even remember the last count. I think I'm over like 400 podcasts I subscribe to. I listen to things I agree with, things I disagree with, because I always like to hear different perspectives. But Skywatch TV does a lot of looking at what's going on in the culture and what it can mean to Christians in the church. Even though I may disagree with their theology, I respect their willingness to try to figure out what's going on in the culture. And, well, they're the ones who brought this to my attention, so I want you to hear what they had to say. Again, Skywatch TV, I subscribe to it on the Edify Christian Podcast app, but it's available pretty much wherever you get your podcast. If you can't find it, let me know, and I'll help you because, well, you should subscribe to it. Even though I disagree with some of its stuff, it's always interesting to see what they're talking about on any given day. All right, here we go.
Item number 1 today, creationism is racist because, of course it is. In an op-ed published by Scientific American, Allison Hopper declared that the denial of evolution is a form of white supremacy. Why, you might ask? Good question. The global scientific community, Hopper writes, overwhelmingly accepts that all living humans are of African descent, the out of Africa model of evolution. Most scientific articles about our African origins focus on genetics. So, Hopper writes, evolution denial is not about religion, as we Christians contend, but at its core, quote, it is a form of white supremacy that perpetuates segregation and violence against black bodies, end quote. Violence. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. She continues now, at the heart of white evangelical creationism is the mythology of an unbroken white lineage that stretches back to a light-skinned Adam and Eve. don't know what church she's familiar with. In literal interpretations of the Christian Bible, this would also be, by the way, the Jewish Bible coming from the Old Testament, white skin was created in God's image. Dark skin has a different, more problematic origin. Quoting still, as the biblical story goes, the curse or mark of Cain for killing his brother was a darkening of his descendants' skin, unquote. All right. Scientific American. We know you publish a lot of peer-reviewed stuff. Did you have nobody check? I mean, even as an op-ed piece, this misrepresents what the Bible actually says. We don't know what the mark of Cain is. We can only speculate because the Bible doesn't tell us. If, historically speaking, some pastors have said that, yes, this was dark skin, then they were making it up. It's not based on Scripture. Secondly, flood of Noah. All the descendants of Cain died in Noah's flood. Any pastor who failed to teach that part of the story, if they were trying to use the mark of Cain to justify racism, totally ate up, not based on Scripture. Scientific American, look, we're willing as Christians to understand and accept the fact that you do not appreciate, understand, or agree with our worldview, but do better. At least don't misrepresent what the Bible says when you're trying to criticize it. This is what passes for science in America today. No wonder we, persons of faith, are rejecting the science. Well, the Rise 2020.
You can hear his frustration, just like you could hear my frustration. This is crazy. And he makes an excellent point there that even if you try to say the mark of Cain was dark skin, well, what happened to that whole line? Because wouldn't they have been destroyed in the flood? So now what do you do? Well, now what? So even if someone tried to use that, you still have to teach the flood and it destroying everyone. So why would scientific, well, you know what? Why even ask that question? Clearly, this is just another attempt to not only marginalize Christianity, but to push Christianity, Bible-believing Christians, push them into a category that everyone tries to get the world to look. You see those people standing over there in the corner? Those are Christians. So let me tell you about those Christians. They are racist. Full-blown racist. They teach white supremacy. They teach segregation. And guess what else they teach? They teach violence against black people. They are racist. You know what else they are? They're misogynistic. You know what else they are? They are hateful. They're homophobic, transphobic, Islamic phobic. They're phobic of everything. These people are dangerous. They're a danger to society. They're filled with, they teach hate speech. They should not be listened to. They must be silenced. They must be canceled. Their accounts must be removed from YouTube, from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and every podcast they make needs to be silenced. Now, I'm not saying that's all going to happen 5 minutes from now. Let me make it very clear. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when you begin to now claim that if I don't believe in evolution, I'm a white supremacist. And if I don't believe in evolution, I'm a racist. Now this has gone 15 steps further than it was just maybe a week before. Now, I don't know how I look. The person who wrote this is a filmmaker who has a degree in design, all right? So I don't know how widespread this way of thinking is in academic circles. I don't know how widespread this viewpoint is in the scientific world, but if it begins to spread, if this is like the beginning signs of it, the first hint, I'm telling you, like we're going to be looking at exactly how people are going to silence Christianity. They're going to silence Christianity by labeling us racist. And that is a major problem. So there you have it. Go to theologycentral.net. Go to the blog section. You'll find the link. Read the whole article for yourself. Print out the article. Give it to your pastor. Hey, I know we have someone teaching the book of Genesis right now in Tennessee. I think he's still teaching Genesis in his Sunday school class. Please bring this up, warn everyone, and I guess I have to give a warning here because this is important. And this is very frustrating to me because I hate racism. I loathe racism. You don't even know how angry racism makes me. It literally, I have to try to maintain a righteous, handling of my anger. I hate racism. But here's the danger. If everything makes someone a white supremacist, if everything is racist, everyone's a racist, everything is racist, the whole country is racist, every person is racist, everything you believe is racist, everything you do is racist, everything you teach is racism, at some point, racism stops meaning anything. Like it's like if everyone's a racist, then what is racism? Everything is racist, so what difference does it make? Okay, I go to church and I believe in Genesis. You're a racist. It doesn't matter what you do. You're white. You're a racist. You live there. You're a racist. If everything is racism, then it leads to people, and this is the warning, and I really want you to heed my warning. You can become so tired of hearing it that therefore you become desensitized to actual racism and real race issues that require people who are righteous and godly standing up for right and truth. Don't allow all of this nonsense to desensitize you when there's real racism, when something really goes on, because what we have a tendency to do, as soon as someone says, look what's going on over there, that's racism, sometimes there's a tendency, I'm not going to say this is true of every person, but I think there are some people who are like, they just immediately become defensive and like, you know what, I'm going to justify that or make an excuse for it because I'm tired of everyone being called a racist. And if I don't defend that, next thing you know, I'm going to be called a racist. And no, we have to set we can't allow that to happen to ourselves. Where there is real racism, where there is real injustice, where there's real discrimination, we need to speak up for what is right. Okay, so don't allow the culture, don't allow your response to the culture lead you to an incorrect response. Sometimes when the culture goes to one extreme, we respond to that extreme by going to another extreme. That is not right. Wherever culture goes, no matter what extreme it goes to, we go to a biblical understanding and a biblical response, not a cultural extreme. We don't fight these battles culturally. We fight these battles scripturally. But this is can you imagine if your kid is in an academic setting, whatever kind of school, and they go to church, they learn in Genesis, they believe in the Bible, they believe in creation, and they're being told by a teacher that you're a racist? I mean, and then everyone's looking at them. They're sitting in a classroom. The teacher doesn't call them out by name, but all the other students know, oh, that kid goes to church and he believes in the Bible and he believes in God created the heavens and the earth. We've had discussions about it. And all of a sudden the teacher's there. Anyone who believes this is a racist. Everyone's going to look back at your son or daughter and they're going to be like, okay, well, never mind. No, I don't believe that. Because nobody wants to be labeled a racist. That is crazy. I mean, it would be one thing if it wasn't Scientific America. Let me see, what's the name of the publication? I want to make sure I state the name correctly because, you make one mistake and everyone remembers the one mistake, You make one mistake, everyone gets mad at you. Perpetuates. Everyone's going to remember I messed up the word perpetuate. Scientific American. It would be one thing if I looked, if I heard this and I looked at it, I'm like, okay, that's some crazy... I've never heard of that website. I think most people have heard of Scientific American, right? So that's what this brought it to my attention a little bit more. So now the good news is that was July the 5th. Today is July the 20th. Good news is maybe I didn't catch. Now again, maybe it's too close. It was too close to the holiday and it got overlooked. But if you keep your eyes and ears open, and if you hear this same kind of thought showing up somewhere else, you please let me know as soon as you can. newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. I can't speak for anyone else, but I'm still going to hold and believe that God created the heavens and the earth. He created Adam and Eve. I believe he created everything in 6 literal 24-hour days. I'm not making a scientific argument. That to me is a textual argument. I think there's no way to read Exodus 20 and the reference back to creation. And I mean, for 6 days, the Lord, the whole thing is based off how the work week was designed. I don't know how you just throw that out. But I mean, Put it this way. We can have our theological and textual arguments over Genesis, but I'm not going to refer to someone as a racist simply because of what they believe about Genesis. I mean, come on. There's got to be a better way to define white supremacy and racism than that. All right. So much we could talk about there, but we'll stop. All right. newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. I cannot wait for the feedback on this. I hope that this should spark a lot of comments. I think this really should. So I'll be interested to see what you have to say. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great day. I should be back on the air here shortly. God bless.